In fact, it was 70 years ago today, this very day, July 11th, 1950, that Ambassador Donald Heath presented his credentials to the late King Father. And again, thank you to the Royal Academy for taking note of history and organizing, bringing us here together on the very anniversary. That day, July 11th, 1950, marked the first time the United States had a permanent diplomatic representative in the country. That was 3 years before Cambodia gained its own independence. At that time, French Indochina, as we called it, was a region of great and growing importance to the United States. Ambassador Heath was credentialed to Vietnam, to Laos, and here to Cambodia. At that time in the early 1950s, there was a strong global effort around the world to preserve the gains of a very terrible war, World War II. The triumph of liberty over authoritarianism. Ironically, one of the efforts was to prevent genocide, a term that was coined for the very first time to describe Nazi atrocities that had been committed during World War II. I say ironically because we know the challenges that were yet to be seen and forthcoming. In Cambodia, however, in 1950 was the start of a long and enduring relationship, a friendship, one that has had many challenges, it must be said, but also many successes over the ensuing 7 decades. In the early years here in Cambodia, and the President of the Royal Academy highlighted some of them, the United States undertook many good works. Then, like now, our focus was on the priorities of the Cambodian people. And in the 1950s and the early 60s, we contributed to many infrastructure projects, to many buildings and schools, evidence of which still exists today, 70 years later. Now most of us know our history. Indochina, this region, became a Cold War battleground. And it was also host to many local struggles as the countries here in the region gained their independence and were challenged to fine-tune the kind of governance systems that they wanted, how to apportion power. This became a difficult and challenging time. The war that took place in neighboring Vietnam almost inevitably spilled over into the neighborhood, including into Cambodia. And Cambodia itself struggled with competing forces and ideologies. Let me just jump forward 70 years and share with you the quick story that even adversaries can become very good friends. Yesterday, Vietnam and the United States finalized an agreement to bring Peace Corps volunteers to Vietnam. Ambassador, I congratulate you in Vietnam. What an achievement to go from conflict to the greatest of friends. And I'm so very happy, as many of us worked on that objective over many years. It's inspiring for us all. And I think we had a similar story in Cambodia. The Peace Corps program here for the past decade has been very, very successful, helping Americans and Cambodians understand each other. Let's go back to the 1960s. 1965, Cambodia cut diplomatic ties with the United States. But as the President of the Royal Academy recounted in 1967, the visit here to Cambodia of our former First Lady, Jacqueline Kennedy, was quite monumental in improving some of the respect and mutual understanding. She was an incredible figure, but just her presence here as a private citizen with the late King Father and many other Cambodians helped to improve some of the understanding and got things back on track, and relations were restored in 1969. Nonetheless, as we know, the situation here in the region and specifically in Cambodia grew quite complex in the ensuing years. And as the Khmer Rouge movement approached the capital of Phnom Penh, U.S. personnel evacuated and Embassy Phnom Penh closed on April 12, 1975. That was the beginning of a long period of great challenge for Cambodia and for our relation. The next 19 years, in fact, were quite dark. However, a special representative from the United States arrived here in the early 1990s and eventually became ambassador in May of 1994, reestablishing a U.S. embassy and a presence that has been uninterrupted ever since, 26 years and counting. That ambassador was Ambassador Charlie Twining. Some of you my age perhaps might remember Ambassador Twining. Just yesterday, I had a great conversation with Ambassador Twining and also with former ambassadors Ken Quinn, Charlie Ray, and Carol Rodley. And the five of us reminisced about the history of the last 30 years. The ups, the downs, the bumps, the challenges, the successes. And it was really quite interesting and quite fun because all four of my predecessors share very positive memories about the Cambodian people and the resilience of the kingdom. And our relationship, in my view, much like the Cambodian people, is quite resilient. The better story of these long 70 years are the last 30 years. And over that time, the United States has contributed a great deal to the kingdom, almost $3 billion with a B, dollars in foreign assistance. That's a significant part of our treasury, but American private citizens have given even more through private channels and philanthropy and non-government organizations. Our contributions have not just been in the form of financial assistance, but in political will. And the United States has been part of the chapter of Cambodia's recovery. The United States was at the table for the U.S. Paris peace process. We supported the presence of the United Nations here in the early 1990s when Cambodia was reconstituting itself. We supported Cambodia's membership in ASEAN. We provided groundwork and support for the ECCC, also known as the Khmer Rouge Tribunal. And we believe our partnership has yielded positive results. All of the credit goes to the Cambodian people, of course, who have been resilient and have risen from the ashes of despair and destruction. But our partnership of mutual respect has produced results. And I've been so grateful to hear from Cambodians during my time here. Thanks and appreciation and gratitude for those American contributions. We can see the results. Post-conflict recovery, some degree of accountability for past injustice, demining, bringing Cambodia closer to becoming a mine-free country in 2025, if not soon thereafter, we hope. Helping Cambodia achieve a constitution that provides the framework for multi-party democracy. Civil society has become vibrant and active in so many different sectors in Cambodia with U.S. assistance that has given the seeds for civil society to grow and foster. Cambodia, with the help of many partners, including the United States, has become one of the fastest growing economies for more than a decade, one of the fastest growing in the region and in the world. There have been great efforts to protect this country's precious cultural heritage. It's equally precious, but under great stress and pressure, natural resources, improved nutrition and livelihoods, regional integration, trade and investment, amazing gains in combating infectious diseases. And the United States has been proud to be part of this story. Now, the United States has also gained from the relationship. Like the Cambodian people, the American people have appreciated when our relations are good, the American people derive benefit. Cambodia has provided phenomenal assistance in the accounting for U.S. personnel missing from those conflict years. Americans, and especially American families, are unbelievably grateful for finding out the truth and the real story of what happened to their loved ones and accounting for them. Cambodia has made significant and ongoing contributions to UN peacekeeping operations. Even this week, Cambodian peacekeepers prepared to depart and contribute to missions far away from home during a global pandemic, helping to maintain and achieve peace. This is giving back. Cambodia benefited from UN contributions here, and now Cambodia is giving back. And the United States, like the rest of the world, benefits from that. Cambodia has also made contributions to countering proliferation, countering terrorism, and countering international crime. That's good for Cambodia. It's also good for the American people, and we're appreciative. These days, our annual assistance is over $100 million a year, and we remain very invested in the kingdom's success. The people of Cambodia's priorities to become healthy, prosperous, democratic, sovereign. As I like to say, and it bears repeating, this is good for Cambodia, this is good for the region, it's good for our enduring friendship. This year, not just today, but the entire year, we are highlighting our 70th, through our 70th anniversary, our sustained collaboration and partnerships in so many areas, including agriculture, youth, education, technology, women and gender equality, the environment, humanitarian assistance, trade and investment, law enforcement, regional cooperation, the ASEAN architecture, and unwavering support for democracy and human rights. Now, among our most successful partnerships has been public health. And I'm very honored that our U.S. mission here comprises experts representing the United States Centers for Disease Control, the National Institutes for Health, the U.S. Navy Medical Branch, the U.S. Agency for International Development, the U.S. State Department Medical Services. All of them are working with counterparts to improve public health in Cambodia. We've seen over time the success in combating infectious diseases like HIV and malaria. This has paid dividends now during the unprecedented, in our lifetimes, global pandemic. These representatives and agencies are working day after day with their Cambodian counterparts on surveillance, on contact tracing, on testing. And I think we can see that Cambodia thus far is doing well in response to the global pandemic. We're not out of the woods yet, but Cambodia is doing everything possible to protect its population and the rest of us. During this pandemic, the United States has allocated over $11 million to help Cambodia respond to COVID-19. This puts us in the position of being the largest donor, but more importantly, it includes not just support for the public health response, but economic recovery. As we can see, COVID-19 is not only having an impact on global health, but a very challenging impact on our economies. And Cambodia is not immune from that. So our assistance is already beginning the economic recovery. This past week, the United States joined others in the region in supporting the Asian Development Bank that provided a concessional loan to Cambodia for $250 million, contributing also to economic recovery. Let me just begin to close by noting that the United States is not a perfect country. We have been practicing democracy for 244 years. We continue efforts to, as we like to say, perfect our union. It remains a work in progress. Cambodia also is a work in progress. we hope that we can continue to see success here in all the categories that I've mentioned, but especially in governance and rule of law, so that all Cambodians can have a voice in the country's future. Now, our greatest source of pride in the relationship between the United States and Cambodia is our people-to-people ties. This works in both directions. Students and academics, business persons, tourists, youth who enjoy exchanges, the Peace Corps volunteers I mentioned, also the many Americans who call Cambodia home, and the 300,000 Americans who identify as American Cambodian. Having come from Cambodia to make America their home, they're now contributing to the relationship with business, with tourism, with connections to families and communities. This forms the bedrock of our relationship. Now let me conclude by observing that as we did 70 years ago, we are committed today and going forward to a healthy, prosperous, independent Cambodia. As we look forward, here's my aspiration as ambassador. My efforts are focused on making our ties stronger, on achieving greater understanding, ensuring mutual respect, increasing our trade, growing the number of Cambodians who study in the United States and bring their skills back here to the kingdom, supporting efforts here to protect multi-party democracy and Cambodia's independence and sovereignty, working with Cambodia to contribute to an open and free Indo-Pacific. And that includes having a successful rotation in 2022 as the chair of ASEAN. That will be a very important year, and I think we're all beginning the groundwork to make that successful. So thank you, everyone, for joining this unprecedented historic meeting of scholars and government representatives. I appreciate the opportunity and the honor to speak with you. I hope all of you have an engaging and fruitful forum today as we learn from each other, thinking and speaking openly, critically, and constructively. Here's to the enduring relationship between the Kingdom of Cambodia and the Republic of the United States of America. Akun Jarang.
រីកបណ្ឌិតសភាកម្ពុជាឧត្តមជាទីប្រជុំអ្នកប្រាជ្ញខ្មែរមានភារកិច្ចរក្សាថែស្រាវជ្រាវពងពោះពូកែនាំខ្មែរឆ្ពោះទៅមុខ
បណ្ឌិតសភាកម្ពុជាត្រូវការគឺជាគូបារបារ